also they're going to break up, maybe, and we will see a lot of changes. We have to remember that the Arab world, most of the countries are artificial countries. They are not rich with history and tradition, and they are not homogeneous.
Yes.
How were they made? They were made by two European diplomats in 1916. One was a French diplomat, Mr. Picot. The other one was a British one, Mr. Sykes. 1916, the British and the French took the map of the Ottoman Empire, and they divided areas of influence, areas of power, and all that. This is how Syria and Lebanon and Iraq and Libya, all of this were made. So now we may see the Middle East going back to the area before Sykes Picot, because we see, and this is what we learned in communism, that artificially you cannot change the nature of the people. And the people in the Middle East, still, most of their allegiance is to their tribes, to their clans, to their ethnic group, to the religion group, and there are many. You see, the Middle East is not monolith. You know, you have Sunnis, you have Shiites, but with the Shiites, you have many subdivisions, like the Alawites. Alawites is part of the Shiites in Syria. Assad is Alawi. The Sunnis have many different things, and of course tribes. Libya, for instance. In Libya, there are 140 different tribes, unfortunately. So we may see there, and we already see the beginning of the civil war. So there are going to be many changes. Unfortunately, I think we have to worry that the changes will not be like in Iran in 1979. Iran 79 also is the same. It was a revolution, democratic revolution, but for 4 weeks. Mr. Khomeini came to Paris. This was the end of the democratic revolution. It was Islamic revolution, and we cannot afford another regime like in Iran, in the Middle East, or anywhere in the world. But this is what we have to deal with day to day. And this is why we have the Cancilleria, we have the government, that we worry about it all the time. With our friends, like-minded countries. You know, of course, we have the United States, Europe, but Brazil. We look up to Brazil. Brazil, for us, not only is a friendly country, but Brazil, we see, is an important player and becoming more and more so in the world arena. So we welcome Brazil's contribution and participation. But we have to think, and I think this is what leadership is all about. Not just to deal with the problems of the day. It's very important to deal with the problems, but also preempt the problems of tomorrow. And the problems of tomorrow concern all of us, because the world is becoming smaller and smaller. It's integrated. Yes. And we have problem of sustainable development, and this is so important to have the Rio 20 here in June. Israel is going to send a big delegation to the Rio Plus 20.
Yes.
The
director was there instead because he couldn't come. And therefore he was a grandson of
Oh, wow. He will meet our Minister of Ambiente is coming, our Minister of Agriculture is coming, and a big delegation of experts. And we have Brazil is a leader in sustainable development, and when we look into the future, what is the real problem? The real problem is food security. Not in Brazil or in Israel, in all the world, in Africa, in Asia. Today, we are a world of 7 billion population. In 20, 30 years, 10 billion. So the problem is going to be very acute. We need food security, water management and security, renewable energy, all these things. And Israel and Brazil they have a great potential of cooperation. So from here, the ambassador, myself, will go to Brasilia to speak with the federal government, and I believe we can do a lot in terms of scientific cooperation, commercial, trade, investments, and also to increase our political friendship. Also, one last thing I want to say, that we have a great asset here and in Israel, and this is the Jewish community in Brazil.